Okay, you Woodland Ninjas. First thing I want to announce is the new opening music is from Underground Vibes Records. I feel it really is a prepper urgency and situational awareness thing we're going for. Let's face it, if we ever need to go into action, it's most likely going to start with a blaring siren somewhere, immediately followed by your neighbor Randy shitting his pants and punching his cat in the head. So, much respect for Underground Vibes Records. Again, these are all copyright free to use. We are switching it up because I want to start giving these guys that are trying to make music starting out a chance of getting heard. They provide this music content for free. They don't ask for anything in return. And get this in your head, I always like and subscribe when I use their product or listen to it. So going forward, we're going to give these guys a chance, these new up-and-coming musicians a chance. On with the podcast. I also want to quick add that I realized there was a fan running in the background, a very loud fan running in the background that affected the sound quality you're listening to. Deal with it. I mean, it didn't make you spill your Wheaties, so just deal with it. Now, on with the podcast. We're going to follow up on this is going to be the second part of the Carbine versus full-size AR-15 debate. Going to throw some more facts at you. This is all good information. I'm going to repeat it. If you're sitting out at the range and you're playing with the gas tube and your shots are going all over the place, and you keep playing with the gas tube and your shots keep going all over the place, you should see a pattern there and you should realize you're doing something wrong. Don't worry about where your shots are going first. Worry about getting the cycle of operation correct. Once you get that correct, then sight in your scope, your dot, your iron sights, whatever you're going to do. Get the system operating correctly first, and then tune your gas tube. Do not try to tune your gas tube to adjust your sights. If you think about it, it's kind of ridiculous. Most of us have done it in the past. I, for one, have done it. But at this point, I've become older and wiser and just too damn tired to do this dance wrong. Get your system functioning correctly. Rapid fire 2 or 3 mags. Do 2 or 3 mag dumps and then do slow, under control, bang 1001, bang 1002. If everything's functioning correctly, get your frickin' hands off the gas tube adjustments and sight in your sights. It's that simple. Part 2. Starting with follow-up shot and muzzle control. A properly configured, full-size rifle tends to track almost perfectly in a straight line. The sights move very little between shots, allowing the shooter to maintain visual contact with the target. This characteristic is particularly appreciated by precision shooters who enjoy observing their own impacts through magnified optics rather than watching the reciprocal perform interpretive dance routines. Carbines generally require more active control. Yeah, that's the truth. The shooter must exert greater influence over the rifle to keep it tracking consistently during rapid or strings of rapid fire. Again, it's not impossible. You just need more discipline. This is not a catastrophic disadvantage. It simply means the rifle asks for a bit more participation on your part. Like many engineering compromises, the Carbine exchanges one benefit for another. You lose some smoothness, you gain maneuverability. Physics remain undefeated. It always will. Now you're going to throw in the whole thing about the silencer compensator, blah, blah, blah. I'm not one that likes to modify weapon systems if they're working properly. Y'all want to play with that shit? Good on you. I do not want to modify something that's working properly that my life might depend on. There's no way I'm going to drop a new trigger in and a crazy-ass firing pin with some kind of twisted gas tube because it does something different to the gas or anything like that. The way it comes from the factory is the safest way to use a weapon, always. Plus, if something goes wrong, you get to sue the manufacturer. But let's be honest. Too many people play with guns too much. Now, if you want to take a gun out and play with it and it's not your primary weapon for defense, awesome. Go learn. That's how you're going to learn about guns. But if it's a gun that's your primary means of defense, you don't screw with it. It's just common sense, sound judgment, and actually the adult thing to do. Don't trick out your main self-defense weapon. Now, if you're really good and you're an armorer, you got a better chance at this. But if you're just watching YouTube videos and dropping parts in a gun, that really shouldn't be your main defense weapon. I mean, you can modify the grips and you can modify the sights a little bit, but don't mess with the inside. Please, for your own safety and for your own sake, don't. Starting again, the spatial geography of modern buildings. If the full-size rifle enjoys advantages in recoil behavior, it immediately encounters difficulties the moment someone attempts to bring it indoors. In the modern world, unfortunately, the weapon was not designed around 40-inch rifles. Hallways are narrow, doorways are inconveniently placed. Furniture possesses a remarkable ability to appear exactly where it is least helpful. Vehicles seem specifically engineered to challenge anyone carrying long objects. A full-sized rifle can absolutely function indoors. It simply transforms every movement into a practical examination of geometry. Turning corners requires attention. Navigating stairwells requires planning. Exiting vehicles requires an excessive amount of coordination. The rifle often arrives before the rest of the shooter. This is not necessarily a flaw. It merely means the inevitable consequence of carrying a long enough object through environments optimized for shorter ones are going to be difficult. And again, let's look at turning corners and navigating stairwells. This requires, to do this safely, navigating corners, you're not going to be tight on the corner like in the movie. You're not going to be standing there hugging the corner and inching around the corner. That's not the safe way to do it, because there's all kinds of ways to shoot a bullet down a wall and hit somebody creeping around the corner. You're going to take a step back and you're going to slice the pie. We haven't covered that. I know we talked about it, but we haven't covered it in detail yet. But you're going to take that step back, because then you always got to step back to get back into cover. You're going to take a step back and slowly move around the corner looking for your target of opportunity. If you're lucky, you won't see one. You won't have one. But if you have to engage, you always have that option to take one step back, and you should be back under cover. What's the difference between cover and concealment? Concealment is hiding. Cover is safety. Ideally, you want both, but if I had to choose one, I would take cover. I don't like urban combat. When we talk about mentioning buildings and clearing buildings, I just don't like it. It's dangerous. Why carbines took over? The carbine exists largely because people eventually became tired of wrestling with this problem. By reducing the barrel length and incorporating adjustable stocks, engineers created a platform significantly easier to maneuver in confined environments. The shorter overall length improves mobility. The center of gravity shifts closer to the body. Transition between targets becomes faster. And I will add, I didn't have this in before, transition between weapons becomes quicker and faster. The only thing that makes having a long gun faster in a weapon transition is you can drop it quicker. It's heavier. Other than that, it's a holy nightmare trying to move around different weapons, especially if you have like a M203 or whatever the hell they're calling it right now. It's a losing situation if you don't practice constantly. So having that carbine makes weapons, because you can wear different slings than you can with a longer weapon, at least more comfortably, and it makes weapons transitions so much easier. A carbine feels more responsive during dynamic movement. Most importantly, it stops attempting to occupy neighboring zip codes every time the shooter enters a doorway. The practicality explains much of the carbine's modern popularity. But here we go. Buckle up. It's going to be another one of them days. The average shooter is considerably more likely to encounter hallways, vehicles, and furniture than they are to engage targets across vast open terrain. What have I been telling you? As a result, many willing sacrifice a degree of ballistic optimization in exchange for handling characteristics that better suit contemporary environments. And honestly, that is a difficult trade-off to criticize. It really is. I mean, if your sole job, your sole purpose in your mag is to shoot zombies coming over the hill at 500 meters, God bless you, man. Carry your long gun. Carry that 40-inch AR-15. you put your NATO rounds in there and you tear them zombies up at 500 yards. But I'm going to tell you something. If you've ever cleared a room with a full-size M16A2 and then got to jump down to an M4, it's like running with cinder blocks on your feet and then running with sneakers on your feet. What a difference. And I'm talking about clearing a building, not a room, but clearing a building. You're going to bang that front sight or that barrel, the flash cage, into the wall so many times until you get used to using a full-size rifle clearing a building. You'll be lucky if you bang it once with the carbine, especially if you do it after the A2 or whatever the full-length variant is called these days. Moving on, sight radius, practical accuracy, and flight dynamics. One of the most enduring myths in firearm culture is the belief that longer barrels are inherently more accurate. Like many myths, this one survives because it contains just enough truth to remain confusing. The reality is more complicated, and it is often the case with complicated subjects. The internet has done its best to simplify it incorrectly. We're going to talk about mechanical accuracy versus human accuracy. From a purely mechanical perspective, a shorter barrel can actually possess certain advantages. Shorter barrels are generally stiffer. Stiffer barrels flex less. Reduced flex can minimize harmonic disturbances in the projectile as it travels through the bore. In theory, this can contribute to excellent precision. The realization often surprises people who have spent years confidently informing others that longer barrels automatically equal greater accuracy. Unfortunately, rifles are rarely fired from laboratory fixtures. They are typically operated by humans, and humans introduce variables, many variables, sometimes all at once, and a good part of them are probably the wrong way to do it. The magnificent importance of sight radius. For shooters using iron sights, the distance between the front and rear sight assemblies, known as the sight radius, plays a significant role in practical accuracy. The longer sight radius makes alignment errors easier to detect. Imagine attempting to point two objects at one another across a large distance. Small deviations become obvious. Now move those objects closer together. The same error becomes harder to perceive. This is essentially what occurs with iron sights. A full-size rifle provides a longer sight radius, making sight misalignments more valuable. Or more visible, valuable. Well, visible. If you're picking up mistakes, it's more valuable too. I'm gonna take credit for that. The shooter can identify correct mistakes before firing. A shorter carbine offers less visual separation. Tiny alignment errors become more difficult to detect. Unfortunately, tiny alignment errors possess a remarkable talent for becoming very large mistakes at extended distances. This rifle is not less accurate. The shooter simply receives less assistance from geometry. As always, his distinction matters. So before we go further, I'm going to talk about something. We're talking about crisis management. Go back a little bit further. We're talking about mags and people in your mag and blah, blah, blah. All right, this is where it's going to come into play. This is probably the first time it's really going to hit home for some of you. Some of you meaning gun nuts. Not everybody in your mag needs to have a carbine. Not everybody in your mag needs to have a full 20-inch or greater barrel. But what you do need is some people, if you have a decent group, 7, 8, 9-man group, some of you should have carbines, some of you should have long guns. Shorter barrel weapons go into the building, longer barrel weapons cover. They stay outside and cover. They move to higher ground and cover while your shorter barrels are clearing the building. You got to have communications. You got to be able to say, blue coming out, or I'm so used to law enforcement. Whatever you say, you can say Mickey Mouse coming out, whatever, so they know you're coming out. You say it on the radio so they're not popping the head of their best friend, open with a 5.56 round. But as long as you have communications, you have coordination, and you have a mixture of long and short barrels, what you're trying to do is probably going to go a lot better and a lot more smoothly. Your cover, your weapons cover, the people that are covering you in that building, they can be at a much greater distance, meaning they're going to be undetected, or a better chance of being undetected, meaning they've got a better chance of protecting you. If they're sitting right on top of you and somebody goes to go into that building because they saw you running and they turn around real quick and look at the building behind them and you're sitting there looking down your scope at them, First of all, you're not going to acquire targets as quickly in a scope as you are open sight. So that's going to be my argument for that. However, you get what I'm saying. You get what I'm putting down. You got your cover fire is going to be from a greater distance away, as long as it's not so far that you got some 80-year-old guy up there that can't see past the end of the barrel. But if you got somebody up there with a decent scope or decent sights on their weapon and knows what the hell they're doing, like a good old boy from Kentucky, you're going to be in much better shape if somebody tries to storm that building after they see or hear you go in, or you set off some kind of booby trap or something. So you want that. You want people with long barrels. You want people with short barrels. And if you really got to complicate things and you really want to look at a desperate situation and you really want to tie this all together, if there's only two of you, one or two of you work with the carbine inside the building and have a long barrel strapped to your back. And when you go to come out of the building, pull the long barrel and run out of the building. You should have both, in my opinion, whether it's carried by the same person or whether you have different people assigned different tasks. Now, it's also very important that you don't have somebody taking, that's setting up for your cover fire that doesn't have a clue what they're doing. And again, you got to have radios. You got to have means of communication. But it works very well. A fire team does not work with everyone in the building very well. You need cover fire. So keep that in mind now that we're talking about this distance and barrel length and, whatever. Moving on, velocity, trajectory, and the tyranny of gravity. That's gravity. I'm sorry, my sinuses are closed. Allergy seasons are here. Longer barrels also benefit from increased muzzle velocity. Higher velocity produces flatter trajectories. Flatter trajectories require fewer corrections. Fewer corrections generally produce happier shooters. The relationship becomes increasingly important as distances grow. Gravity, after all, is one of the few forces in the universe that will never take a day off. The moment a bullet exits the barrel, gravity begins pulling it downward with unwavering dedication. A faster projectile reaches its destination sooner. Less travel time means less drop. Less drop means fewer calculations. Fewer calculations means fewer opportunities for the shooter to confidently make the wrong decision. This arrangement tends to be appreciated by everyone involved, especially the people you're covering with long-distance cover fire. Wind, nature's favorite practical joke. Wind introduces another variable. Specifically, it introduces chaos. Projectile spending more time in flight experiences more exposure to crosswinds. The longer it remains airborne, the greater opportunity the atmosphere has to interfere. Faster bullet arrives sooner. A slower bullet remains exposed longer. As distances increase, this distance becomes increasingly noticeable. Hey, I almost did a Porky Pig, but yeah, I heard it. Get it out of your system. Experienced long-range shooters devote tremendous effort toward understanding wind behavior. Novices generally discover that wind possesses an extraordinary ability to ignore their expectations. The full-size rifle velocity advantage reduces some of this uncertainty, but not completely. Wind remains fully committed to being difficult, but the faster projectile spends less time negotiating with it. Practical conclusions. The irony of the accuracy debate is that both sides frequently argue past one another. One group discusses mechanical precision, the other discusses practical field performance. Both believe they are discussing the same thing. However, they are not. Mechanically, shorter barrels can be exceptionally accurate. Practically, longer barrels often provide advantages that help real humans place rounds more consistently at extended distances. Neither statement contradicts the other. Both are true, which unfortunately means nobody gets to declare absolute victory and end the argument forever. As history has repeatedly demonstrated, this outcome is deeply upsetting to internet forums. Now, I'm going to make an example here to sum that last statement up about longer rifles shooting better than shorter rifles and this and that. Of course, it depends on whose hands that rifle is in. You take a Marine Corps sniper and give him a carbine, and you take a Marine Corps marksman and give him a 40-inch rifle, and I guarantee you that sniper is going to hit more targets more accurately and quicker than the marksman with the longer barrel. It's not necessarily always a compromise. It's a matter of practice and skill level. So For those of you going out and have bought a carbine and taken it to the range and you're all over the place and you can't hit shit consistently, it's not the gas tube. It's probably not your sights. It's you're not practicing enough and you are used to longer barrels. Like everything we talk about in prepping, shooting a carbine, if you're going to be trying to make long-range shots with it, is going to take some practice. Carbines are not designed for long-range shots. Just get that in your head right off the bat. It's not, this one shoots better than this one. Carbines are designed more for close quarters combat, and 99% of the time in close quarters combat, you're not even going to be looking down the sight. I mean, you're going to be generalizing down the barrel where you're shooting, but you're probably not even going to be using a sight for 50% of the shots you're going to take in close quarters combat. I, for one, shoot with both eyes open always, except for at night. I don't want to lose my night vision, so I always close one eye when I shoot, and then I always have the night vision in the other eye. But close quarters combat, you need to learn instinctive shooting. You'll be surprised how accurate you can get. Now, I'm not saying hip shoot everything, but you can practice instinctive shooting, especially under stress and duress. It's so much easier to hit a target. I mean, you might be shooting for the nose and hit him in the jaw, don't get me wrong, but you're going to hit the target, and that's the main thing. And if you have the right kind of rounds, special purpose rounds, you're going to do almost as much damage at close range as you would with a 20-inch barrel at 200 yards. So I don't ever want to hear the argument about how, I can shoot a long barrel better than I can shoot a short barrel. Pretty much that's a statement for everyone. However, the first time you try to clear a house or a kill box or do a lot of jumping in and out of helicopters or vehicles, you're going to hate that full-size weapon. I don't care how good of a shot you are with it. I don't care if you can put a bullet up a mosquito's ass at 200 yards. You're going to hate that long-range rifle. Carbines, it's like an extension of your body. You can keep it flat to your chest, pointed down at your junk, and get in and out of cars without snagging on anything if you got the stock collapsed. So I don't want to hear this argument about I can shoot one better than the other one. Of course you can. You're a human being. All right, moving on. The intermediate compromise. Enter the mid-length system. After years of watching shooters argue themselves into exhaustion over rifle length versus carbine length gas systems, the firearms industry eventually arrived at a startling realization. Perhaps there was a middle option. The breakthrough was particularly remarkable because the concept of placing something between two extremes had previously remained hidden from human civilizations, apparently. For years, manufacturers have been attaching carbine-length gas systems originally designed around 14.5-inch military barrels to civilian 16-inch barrels. The arrangement functioned, but it often resulted in rifles that were generously overgassed. The rifles worked. They actually worked. They worked well. They simply worked with the mechanical grace of a shopping cart being pushed down a staircase. Engineers noticed that adding an extra inch and a half of barrel beyond the gas port increased dwell time. It increased operating pressures, and it generally encouraged the rifle to cycle with the enthusiasm of an over-caffeinated intern on their first day. The solution was surprisingly simple. Move the gas port forward. That's it. No revolutionary metallurgy, no classified military technology, no secret NASA space alloys. Just move the hole. Thus, the mid-length gas system was born. The gas port relocated approximately 2 inches farther down the barrel, creating a more balanced pressure curve and significantly improving the rifle's operating characteristics. Predictability. This simple adjustment produced several benefits. Pressure reduction. The system taps gas later in the pressure cycle. This means lower operating pressure. Lower pressure means smoother cycling. Smoother cycling means fewer internal parts attempting to violently separate themselves from one another. Everybody wins. Improved dwell time. The timing relationship between gas flow and the bullet travel becomes more balanced. Extraction occurs under more favorable conditions. The bolt carrier group moves with less aggression. The rifle behaves less like it's trying to set a personal speed record every time a trigger is passed or pressed. Now, let's talk about the bolt carrier group for a second. This is another one of those things that I would say absolutely spend the money on, especially in a carbine. Get the strongest, best made bolt carrier group you can get. Bolt carrier groups take a beating in a carbine. I'm admitting it. I'm telling you, But this is how you get around that and make the adjustments to make it successful. You can buy one of those composite lowers, the Mattel lowers, the composite material, whatever they make it out of, like a Glock. That's fine. It's not going to make a difference for 99% of the people out there. You can get a upper made from some company nobody ever heard of, as long as you got a good bull barrel on there and everything's working properly. I mean, there's compromises, but you could get away with it. But the bolt carrier group, I would say spend the money on, because that bolt carrier group is going to take the biggest beating. The bolt carrier group, the buffer, and the buffer spring are the three things in an AR-15 platform that I would spend the most money on, especially in a carbine. The grid locks configuration. The result is what many shooters now consider the ideal compromise. The rifle retains the compact handling characteristics of a carbine. It gains much of the smoothness associated with a rifle-length system. It avoids most of the drawbacks associated with both extremes. Naturally, because the firearm community possesses a nearly supernatural ability to transform any solution into a new argument, discussions quickly shift from rifle versus carbine to which mid-length setup is the correct mid-length setup. It's endless. Humanity remains consistent, if nothing else. For modern civilization shooters, however, the 16-inch mid-length configurations represents one of the most successful examples of practical optimization in the AR-15 world. It is difficult to argue with a design that effectively responds to decades of engineering and challenges by saying, what if we just stop making things harder than necessary? The modular system solution. Swapping uppers. At this point, one might reasonably expect the AR-15 debate to conclude. After all, we've discussed barrel length, velocity, recoil, ergonomics, pressure curves, mechanical longevity, trajectory, wind drift, approximately 4,000 reasons why every option involves compromise. Surely the final answer must be approaching. Not quite, because Eugene Stoner had one more surprise waiting. The AR-15 was designed around exceptional modular architecture. In fact, calling it modular almost feels like an understatement. The rifle is essentially the firearm equivalent to adult building blocks. The platform, you ever hear the adult Lego rifle? That's the AR-15. The platform is divided into two major assemblies: the lower receiver, which contains a fire control group, magazine well in stock; the upper receiver, which contains a barrel, gas system, handguard, and bolt carrier group. These assemblies connect via two takedown pins. That's the entire process. 2 pins. No machine shop, no specialized certification, no blood oath administered by a gunsmith, just 2 pins. This design quietly destroys the central premise of center fire rifle versus carbine argument, because the answer increasingly becomes, why not both? Rather than committing permanentness, to a single configuration, shooters can simply maintain multiple upper receivers. Need a compact rifle for close range? Attach a carbine upper. Need a greater velocity and longer range capability? Attach the upper. This transition takes less time than many people spend typing responses in online comment sections explaining why everyone else is wrong. The flexibility represents one of Stoner's greatest engineering achievements. Instead of forcing owners to choose a single compromise, the platform allows them to adapt. The same lower receiver can support multiple mission profiles, multiple barrel lengths, and multiple operating philosophies. Meanwhile, somewhere on the internet, two strangers continue arguing as though one configuration must be permanently declared victorious. The rifle itself seems completely unconcerned. Conclusion: your architectural dilemma. After decades of debate, countless articles, endless forum discussions, and enough YouTube content to occupy several lifetimes, the conclusion remains remarkably simple. There is no perfect AR-15. This statement alone will likely disappoint approximately half of the readership, listeners, whatever you want to call it. It might even disappoint more than half. The full-size rifle remains an extraordinary example of ballistic efficiency and mechanical refinement. Its longer barrel maintains velocity. Its gas system operates smoothly. Its recoil feels civilized, for lack of better terms. Its long-range performance is objectively impressive. If your priorities involve distance, precision, open terrain, or simply Appreciating the elegance of the original design, the 20-inch rifle remains exceptionally difficult to surpass. Of course, it is also long. Very long. Sometimes hilariously long. A full-size rifle entering a modern hallway occasionally resembles a medieval siege weapon attempting to navigate suburban architecture. The Carbine, meanwhile, excels in exactly these environments. It is compact, portable, responsive, easy to maneuver, easy to store, easy to transport. It sacrifices some ballistic performance in exchange for practicality, which happens to be a trade many people willingly make. I am one of them people. Because while an extra few hundred feet per second sounds impressive on paper, fitting through a doorway without performing advanced geometry also has its advantages. So, for an example, my plan, and thank you again, my brother from another mother, my plan is if we ever got to bug out and get the hell out of here, because I am going to bug in until the last possible minute, but if we ever have to bug out, I will have the Carbine in the front, the Glock on the side, and the black 300 blackout on my back with the full-length barrel. It kind of goes against what I believe in as far as maintaining the same caliber, but you need the right tool for the right job. I do not plan on shooting anything that's more than 200 yards away, if anything, maybe 250 on a good day. It's a waste of ammo, and in most people's cases, even if you practice at the range, shooting under duress is completely different than shooting on a range with no constrictions, time constrictions, or nobody shooting back at you, for example. I would say you want an idea what it's like, get one of those old plastic wiffle ball bats, not this new pansy shit with the thin stuff, one of those yellow ones that's pretty hard, like almost like a piece of PVC, and tell somebody to mix up the times, like every 3 seconds hit you with the bat, every 2 seconds hit you with the bat, and mess those times up and just keep cracking you with the bat while you're trying to shoot. See how good you do at a long distance shot. That's shooting under duress. Yeah, maybe the enemy's not going to be hitting you with a wiffle ball bat, but it'll give you an idea of what it's like with shit coming at you and you're trying to maintain accuracy. You're going to come off target. You're going to do a whole bunch of stupid shit. At 400, 500, 600, 700 yards, it's going to be almost impossible to even acquire your target while people are beating you up with a baseball bat to simulate stress under fire. But if you're shooting inside of 200 yards, if you're shooting with open sights or a pro point, or even a scope, to be honest with you, at 200 yards, it's going to be a lot easier to maintain control. It's going to be a lot easier to find your target. It's going to be a lot easier to hit your target. Seriously, try something like that out. Even if you're going to wuss out and just have somebody popping balloons around you or something like that. But try it. Just for shits and giggles. Hear me out on this. Try it. Have somebody blasting you with a baseball bat, and it doesn't have to be in the head or in the face, but have them hit you in the legs or in the back or in the shoulder, or every once in a while even have them hit you on the hand. You need these distractions to simulate the stress of combat and somebody shooting at you, and it's nowhere near the stress of combat. However, you're shooting under duress, and you will see what I'm talking about. So, yes, with the longer barrel at 200, 250 yards, you got a fighting chance. Carbines, shorter distance like that, I don't know. Carlos Hathcock, maybe. Not me. But this being said, this is why I would recommend, if it's just you and someone that doesn't know how to shoot, you're carrying both them weapons. Maybe make them carry a little extra weight in their pack, but you need to carry both those weapons, and you need to carry ammo for both those weapons. And one more helpful hint, ding, clearly mark your magazines. Clearly mark your magazines. And if I didn't say it loud enough, really, clearly mark your magazines if you're carrying different types of ammo in similar magazines. Yeah, this comes from experience. I don't know. After all, if shooters ever reach a unanimous conclusion, they might be forced to find something else to argue about. Fortunately, given the history of the firearms community, that appears extraordinarily unlikely. Nobody's ever going to agree on the AR platform. Best friends, twins would not be able to agree on an AR platform in some weird way, shape, or form. So, all you knuckle draggers, stay prepared. stay informed, stay skeptical, and above all, stay teachable. Watch your six and peace out.